When it comes to buying a gi, most people have the same 3 questions. 1, how do I choose the right size? 2, how is the gi supposed to fit me? And 3, what do I do if I'm in between sizes? Let's start with how do you get the right size gi? Now, traditionally, gi size charts are okay, but not always that accurate because you have a height and weight chart and then a recommendation on your gi size. But the problem is, if you're someone like me, I'm an A2 jacket, but the A2 pants are always too long, meaning I either have to put up with a gi that doesn't quite fit me, or I have to buy 2 gis and mix and match the tops. With the FUJI TruFit system, if I know a couple of key measurements, I can get the exact gi that I need, even if I have to mix and match sizes. So I can order an A2 jacket and an A1 pant, no problem. For most people, sizing a gi comes down to really 2 measurements, your wingspan and your outseam length. So let's go over how to get those. To properly measure your wingspan, take a soft tape measure, find the center point of the back of your neck, and run it down the length of your arm to the center of your wrist bone. Do not hold your arms out straight and measure that line. It's going to be too short and it's going to give you the incorrect size. Now, once you have that number, you can either double it, and that's your wingspan, or you can measure the other side the exact same way and add those 2 numbers together, and whatever that is in centimeters is your wingspan. And calculating your outseam is simple. Find your waist, basically where the top of your pants sit, and measure down the outside of your leg to the center point of your ankle bone. And once you have those 2 numbers, simply match them on the FUJI TruFit size chart, and you're on your way. One quick tip, if you already have a gi that fits you well, take the measurements of that gi, match it with the TruFit size chart, and you should be just fine. Now, what if you've taken your measurements and you still think, I'm in between sizes? There are 2 key ways to deal with this. 1, intentionally shrinking your gi carefully, or you can get one of the in-between sizes, which I'll get to in a second. Now, the FUJI TruFit gis are pre-shrunk, but that does not mean you can't shrink them. If I hot wash this and hot dry this gi, I can lose 3 to 4% of the overall size, which is 1 to 2 inches of sleeve length. So if everything else is perfect, but the sleeve length is like maybe just a hair over your wrist, you can intentionally shrink your gi. If you don't want to shrink the gi, cold wash it and hang dry. Now, the heavy and long options are great for people who are really in between sizes. And what I mean by that is this. Let's say you take your measurements and you come out and you're an A3, but based on your weight, your recommended gi size is an A2. That's where something like the A2 long will come into play because you're probably a taller, skinnier person. You could definitely still buy the A3, but it's gonna feel boxy and like you're swimming in it. It's not gonna be as good of a fit. Now, on the flip side of that, let's say you take your measurements and you say, I'm an A2, but based on your weight recommendation, you should be buying an A3. That's where the A2 heavy comes into play. You could still get the A2, but the problem is you're gonna feel really constricted in your chest and your arms, and your gi is just not gonna fit you that well. Now, exactly how a gi should fit is going to be a little bit subjective based on your personal preferences. But in terms of being IBJJF legal, your sleeve length and your pant length are going to be crucial. Now, to be IBJJF legal, you have 5 centimeters, or roughly 2 inches, from your wrist back. So that's why you want your sleeve length to rest right about here on your wrist bone. That's kind of an ideal length. If it's more like this, that's illegal and you're not gonna be able to compete. So 5 centimeters, roughly 2 inches from your wrist back. And the same thing goes for your pant length. You have 5 centimeters, roughly 2 inches from your ankle bone up. As long as you're within that range, you're IBJJF legal and you're good.